across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get stuck in and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, February the 18th. Here's what's coming up. In his first interview since turning his Restore Britain movement into a fully fledged political party, today on this show, Rupert Lowe will tell of why he has decided to mount a direct challenge to his former party, Nigel Farage's Reform UK, and why he believes he can garner the support of millions of disillusioned Brits who are fed up with the escalating migrant crisis and dismayed by the state of the nation. Rupert joins me at 6 p.m. It won't be a ring Rupert phone-in, but if you have any questions you'd like to ask him, send me a text or a WhatsApp message and I'll try to get the answers you're looking for. In other news, the crisis engulfing the royal family dangerously deepens as it is revealed that 7 police forces are now probing allegations that the former Prince Andrew was up to his neck in his pedo pal Epstein's sex trafficking racket. Just how much trouble is Andrew in? And is the King's silence on the issue just making a bad situation even worse? I'll talk to the experts. 0344 499 1000. Also today, the troubling questions over the Chagos Islands giveaway as it emerges that a close human rights lawyer friend of human rights lawyers Keir Starmer and Attorney General Richard Hermer may have made millions from the distinctly dodgy deal. And is our spinning top Prime Minister on the point of staging yet another major U-turn after realising that his plan to hike the minimum wage is a surefire way to guarantee unemployment for long-suffering young job seekers? Looks like it's another U-turn on its way, folks. Is that the 15th, 16th, 17th? You lose track, don't you? Does this Downing Street dork Starmer ever get anything right? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday afternoon together, and we've got a lot to pack in today, so let's go straight over to my first guest. He is the research director at the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome, Robert.
Good afternoon, Kev. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. We're going to take you outside your remit a little while to discuss some other stories other than the ongoing migrant crisis. First of all, we are still reeling, really, from Keir Starmer's, let's say it's his 15th, shall we? We'll settle on his 15th U-turn when he announced that he was reinstating the local elections that have been cancelled after the government invited all these councils, 30 of them, to delay, postpone, call off their local elections officially, ostensibly because of border changes and the bureaucratic difficulties that came with that. But of course, according to critics, because Keir Starmer was terrified of a shellacking at the ballot box and therefore cancelled democracy. Well, that was a shocking U-turn. People are absolutely astonished by that because he just keeps on U-turning. Well, today, unbelievably, he has come out, and his other trait, apart from U-turning all the time, is he blames everyone else for his problems. It wasn't my fault that we mistakenly appointed Peter Mandelson to become US ambassador. It was the intelligence services. Everybody told me the wrong side. Not my fault. Blame them. Now he's blaming the local councils for the cancellation of the elections that his government cancelled. He's actually blaming the councils. What goes on in this guy's head?
Well, I think, unfortunately, for Starmer, the tactic of blaming other people for your mistakes and then subsequently firing those individuals, well, he's running out of people to fire at this point, really. So the attempt by this government to completely overhaul our democracy in this country on spurious grounds, well, now found to be illegitimate grounds, was really wholly driven by party political considerations. They know full well they are going to get absolutely walloped come May the 7th, and there was question marks before about whether that would mark the end of Keir Starmer's premiership. I think it's inevitable now that come May the 8th, Keir Starmer will be outside Downing Street behind a podium, po-faced, making a resignation. But the question is, why has there been no accountability from this attempt of the government to really disenfranchise 5 million people from their right to vote? And you consider when these individuals are seeing council tax hikes, they're seeing deterioration of bin services, potholes and so forth. The idea that in some areas they would have had to wait 2 years before actually getting the chance to turf out individuals that are doing such harm to their local areas is an absolutely disgraceful attempt. And really, the Secretary of State for Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, Steve Reid, really does need to be falling on his sword at this point. This is such a significant attempt from the Labour government to subvert democracy that this idea that they can just wash it off as some kind of administrative error is really not going to wash.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many questions here. Well, I mean, the reason that old spinning top Starmer had to stage his 14th, 15th U-turn, as I say, we get lost in the numbers. We'll settle on the 15th, shall we? The reason he staged this U-turn was because Reform UK threatened legal action. In fact, that case was due to go to court. At the 11th hour, the legal advice to Starmer and his cabinet was, you will lose this case. Therefore, the whole proposition, the whole offer to councils to delay, postpone or cancel their local elections was unlawful. Now, my question would be, are you telling me that this government makes declarations, issues diktats like that without checking the legality of it first? And he is now saying, well, we made this offer to the councils to postpone their elections if they liked for border change reasons. And he's now saying, well, I think it's important to remind ourselves that the decision to cancel was a locally led decision in the sense that each authority could decide. Now, let's think about it. They were mostly Labour councils that he was making this offer to, but there are a few Tory councils as well. And what he was offering them was, he said, look, the chance, what I'm offering you is this. You can either have an election and lose power, because Labour are going to lose every single borough that they've got almost, or you can cancel your election and you can hang on to power. Which would you like to do? Of course, they all said, well, we'll cancel the election. He now says, well, it's their decision, it's their fault. This blame culture that he steeps himself in is another serious problem. This guy is not fit to do this job. Blames everyone else, U-turns, takes years to come to a decision, and when he does come to a decision, he changes his mind. He's not fit for this job, is he, Prime Minister?
Well, we've known that since July 2024, but no, this blame culture really has become quite a tendency of his. I think, offering Turkeys the chance to push back Christmas, of course they are going to take it, but trying to blame council leaders of his own party for making this decision, you really in that technique of a party leader, sort of them actually might be appropriate that you proceed with these votes. And I think really actually this is something that has come from the very top down. This was going to be, or this now will be, the most significant vote between the general elections, and this is a chance for actually the vast majority of the country that are sick to the back teeth of the way this central Labour government have been handling the situation, and the way many local Labour Party administrations as well have been woefully grinding their towns or boroughs into the absolute dirt as well. It gives them a chance to have a voice, and it will be a very stark reflection of just how much the country is already, just 20 or so months into his prime ministership, sick of this prime minister and the government that he is leading. Because on a national level, I just don't see how we can continue at the pace we're continuing, U-turn after U-turn, the uncertainty, the damage that he's doing to our national interests. On a local level, I think there are many areas now that have been under Labour control for decades and have seen the results of deterioration and so forth, and are actually crying out for that chance for change that the May elections will now present them.
By the way, it seems that there's another U-turn in the pipeline which may be imminent. There's another major U-turn that may happen, if not today, within the next couple of days, and that is on the government's decision, on Starmer and Reeves's decision to hike the minimum wage, to raise the minimum wage, because we want to help young people. You know, they shouldn't be made to struggle by on this very low minimum wage. Let's raise it so they get more money. They've suddenly realised what we all knew right from the get-go, that if you do that, employers will say, well, these young kids who want a job here, they're now going to cost me too much money. I'll tell you what, I won't employ them. So late in life, it has dawned on our dense Prime Minister and our even denser Chancellor that if they raise the minimum wage, it will make job seeking for young people even more difficult than it already is. So they're realising they're going to have to change this. So they may well say, we're not going to raise the minimum wage after all. It will be the right decision. In fairness, after they U-turn, they usually arrive at the right decision. Oh no, maybe it was kind of wrong to put the to cancel the winter fuel allowance. Maybe farmers' inheritance, we were kind of wrong. So they keep U-turning. Cancelling local elections? No, that's wrong. They come to the right point, but only after U-turning, and that's an embarrassment. That makes this government farcical. Now it looks like they're going to have to do it again, because late in life, as I say, they've realised what we always knew right from the off, that raising the minimum wage will keep millions of young people out of work. Ridiculous.
Well, let's hope they do U-turn, but it seems to be that actually with the nuttier policy ideas, they do plough ahead and don't actually ever reach the correct decision. I do think, unfortunately, for the country, the Labour Party is being held hostage when it comes to some of these kinds of decisions by a bunch of sort of swivel-eyed backbenchers that don't really understand the basics of economics. And increasingly, the Labour coalition of the left and the far left is bleeding away to the Green Party. So whether actually they're thinking that the consideration here needs to be more of an electoral one, and they're less likely to U-turn on this question. I mean, of course, it makes sense that you know, if you raise the minimum wage, you're going to end up with higher youth unemployment. This is just a basic fact that employers are going to be deterred, especially when you couple it with the national insurance hikes that we've been seeing across the board as well. It's going to make employing individuals a lot less popular. And the result of that is actually you end up with a generation of individuals that have never developed those preliminary work skills that will serve them through life. And you actually end up, therefore, long-term reliant on immigration to plug skills gaps, because you've not invested at the very early stages. You've not taken the steps to actually get individuals 18 and so forth acclimatized to what a workplace is like. And unfortunately, this has been a pattern now for consecutive governments, that the sort of the short-term political hit that would be entailed from having a start conversation about the minimum wage has been put off, and therefore the reliance on immigration has been steadily growing as a result. And, you know, when you consider the sheer number of economically inactive and unemployed young people we've got in the country, something dramatic does need to be taken to reverse this trend. And actually, you know, if we're only having a conversation about not raising the minimum wage even further, we're nowhere near where we actually need to be to put the country on the right course.
Exactly right. Dreaded workers' rights law today. Rights to the workforce and takes so many rights away from employers that again it will result in less employment. More people will be out of work. This is all very socialist and up the workers, but you know, employers will just say, we're not going to take people on. We're not going to keep up a big workforce under this system. So all this left-wing stuff, you know, traditional old-fashioned 1970s style Labour socialism up the workers, is actually detrimental to British workers. So good luck with that. Now let's talk about the Chagos Islands, Robert, because big story, big scoop this morning on Mark Dolan's breakfast show. Some Chagosians from Britain actually bravely made their way back to their homeland, got a launch and landed back on their home country, their homeland, and they were immediately arrested and handed legal notices from the British government that you know, they had to get off their own country. They're to get out of their own country, get off their own land. That's a disgrace. But potentially more of a disgrace is a big exclusive in the Mail that Starmer's great friend shared an £8 million pot of earnings for work on the Chagos surrender deal. This is a guy called Philip Sands, who was the chief legal counsel, a British person, who was the chief legal counsel to Mauritius between 2010 and 2024. So he was working for the other side, against Britain, negotiating this deal. He calls himself a great friend of both Keir Starmer and the cretinous Attorney General, the other human rights idiot, Richard Hermer. It turns out that Professor Sands, a leading human rights lawyer, got his fingers into a pot of £8.3 million, £8,300,000 from the Mauritian state budget, which was allocated for this case. We don't know how much Professor Sands took from this pot, but I bet you it wasn't £5. £8 million sloshing around with this British lawyer, close friend of the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, taking money from Mauritius, and it looks like a great deal of money. Graham Stringer, the Labour MP, the outspoken, very independent-minded Labour MP, will join me later, but he has not been mincing his words. He really has lashed in to Sands, saying Philip Sands is making a fortune representing the interests of a foreign country. Sands, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General all believe that international courts dominated by judges from China are more important than our own democracy. The sooner we take control back for the people of this country and not for foreign courts with lawyers making millions, the better. He's absolutely right, isn't he? You know, Starmer and Hermer, this guy Sands as well, obviously, I mean, they prostrate on the ground. They worship international law. They think it's far more important than the needs, the welfare and the requirements of the British people. And if this guy Sands made millions of pounds from a foreign government to negotiate away British territory, shame on him.
Well, I think the key lesson of this government, actually, in particular evidenced here in the Chagos situation, is that if you elect a human rights elite to run your government, then they will always sell out the national interest, you know, whether it be because they just have this idealisation of human rights and international law, the abstract construct that is, or it is because they find themselves very well remunerated as a result of it. I think actually there are so many questions that need to be asked about these three individuals in particular, the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, and now their busy mate by the sounds of it as well, how involved they have been in actually deliberately downgrading Britain's standing in the world, deliberately selling out British territory for the interest and advancement of what is classified by our closest allies and, you know, indeed by ourselves until Keir Starmer started trying to suck up to them, China, as a strategic enemy. This is a huge threat here. We are now in a time of real volatility in geopolitics. And the idea that actually we have, you know, a British Prime Minister that is more than happy to strengthen the hand of a country that is only going to be increasingly a threat to international trade routes, to just the general presence of free trade and commerce and our country's well-being, and he's done so under the guise of, again, an outdated and a dying order of human rights law, really strikes at the heart actually of why this country's ended up in the situation that it is, because no one actually thinks and sits down and contemplates what is in the interests of the people of this country. How can we best improve their standing? And if we just refer back to the instance of, you know, those Chagosians now being served notices and eviction notices and so forth
from their own country.
How out of touch do you have to be, especially at a time when we've got, you know, 1 million illegal migrants in this country that aren't being served similar notices to leave the country? We've had a lot of talk about colonisation over the last couple of weeks after Jim Ratcliffe's comments as well. You know, what this Prime Minister seems to be doing in cahoots with his friends, making a pretty buck whilst selling out and disenfranchising a people of their own land, seems to me to fit pretty well the definition of colonisation.
Absolutely right. Starmer, you know, on his high horse, Greenland sovereignty is so important. What about the sovereignty of the Chagosians, the Chagos? Oh, never mind them. It's as simple as that. And let's finish on a question to you. I will ask you a question, Robert. What's the difference between a human rights lawyer and a lawyer? Nothing. There's no difference whatsoever, except human rights lawyers want to tell you how wonderful they are. So they put human rights before the words lawyer and then stick their noses in the trough like the rest of them. Human rights lawyers, my backside, seriously. Robert, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Robert Bates there from the Centre for Migration Control. Next up, we're going to talk to Peter Blackstein, former Met Police detective, about the deepening crisis surrounding the former Prince Andrew and indeed the crisis surrounding the royal family. This is getting bad, folks. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America.
That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
You know, the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. We're not going to have Russia or China occupy Greenland. So we're going to be doing something with Greenland either the nice way or the more difficult way.
Any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 7 police forces now say they are investigating the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he now is, over his allegations that he was up to his neck. Well, that's not his neck, that's my face, isn't it? Up to his neck in Jeffrey Epstein, his pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein's international sex trafficking racket. 90 flights allegedly have been recorded coming across the Atlantic from America. These are Jeffrey Epstein's private planes. Apparently, they call it the Lolita Express. Apparently, he had several private planes. Gordon Brown is the one leading the charge on this. He said 90 flights have come over, and we allegedly, or there are accusations that the women on these flights, some of them at least, were transported directly to Buckingham Palace to be entertained by the then Prince Andrew. So those charges continue apace. Plus, of course, the financial impropriety he's accused of, selling, if you like, British state secrets. You know, these emails, internal British government emails about his trade envoy trips, the economy of Iceland and God knows what, to Epstein and other financial friends, banker friends of his. So the charges against him are stacking up alarmingly. Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Peter, I know we've discussed this before, but I've got to get it through my head. When we hear, as we have today in sensational style, that no fewer than 7 police forces are now investigating the alleged involvement of the then Prince Andrew in flights from America on Epstein's private jets, Epstein's and Andrew's alleged involvement in his sex trafficking racket, plus the financial allegations against him. So 7 police forces. When is some police force, presumably be the Met, going to announce that this man is now officially at the centre of a police criminal investigation? Because they seem to be very scared of saying that. Peter is frozen. I thought he was looking at me really intently. He'd just frozen. We're going to get him back. But that is the situation, isn't it? And I think to clear the air, because this is plunging the royal family into a crisis as well. To clear the air, we need the police to say, yes, he is being criminally investigated. All we get so far is, yeah, we're looking into it. We're looking at 7 police forces, having a look at these files. Yeah, we're looking into these emails and the Epstein files and so on and so forth. But we don't get an announcement that I think would clear the air that this guy is going to get his collar felt. He is now at the centre of an official police investigation. The ramifications of this are terrible for the royal family. Makes the royal family look bad as well. The only way to burst the bubble of this pressure that's building up around Andrew, I think, is for the police to actually go ahead and make the announcement that should have happened surely many days ago now. This is getting ridiculous. What is wrong with the coppers? Let's take a quick call while we try and reconnect with Peter Bleksley. I'm sure we'll get him in a second. This is Roy in Hampshire. Hi, Roy.
Hello, Kev.
You want to talk about...
You see the Express today, mate. One ex-copper who was on the protection, he was saying that if you reported anything that Andrew got up to, you were put back on the beat.
Yeah, well, there are calls now. I wanted to talk to this about this with Bleksley, that the Royal Protection Squad are also potentially going to be investigated by the police to find out or to try to look into allegations that they kept quiet about the activities or the alleged nefarious activities of Prince Andrew, that they saw him allegedly breaking the law. We don't know the truth of this, but didn't say anything. So the cops are now on the point of investigating themselves. See what I mean?
But Kevin, if they report it, they're going to be put back on the beat, so they're not going to say anything.
Well, maybe. I'm not sure that
It also says that all these people that were on this protection lot, none of them wanted to go on with Andrew because they knew what he was up to.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that in the height of his alleged criminal activity, that the Royal Protection Squad feared, may have been told, you start reporting this and you will be back on the beat. That is the scenario that could be the case. Listen, we're good call, Roy. Thanks for ringing, mate. That's Roy in Hampshire. Let's go to break and we'll return to the Andrew story after these messages. Stick around.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go over, shall we, to Peter Bleksley, former Met Police detective, shall we? Is he there? OK. Peter Bleksley is going to come on later. So we're having all sorts of technical problems at the moment. I'm going to talk to Dominic Mohan, who's got a great column in The Sun today. He's the former editor of The Sun. I'm going to talk to him in just a second about the crisis that has serious effects on the royal family. This is the worst crisis that experts can remember. This is the worst crisis to engulf the royal family in modern history, and they include the abdication of Edward VIII. This includes the crisis when the royal family completely misjudged the mood of the nation after the death of Diana back in '98, and the people were very, very fed up with them, and they had to recalibrate, regroup. Queen made a speech to the nation, and they're getting it all wrong now. This is a crisis for the royal family, a huge crisis. We need a statement from the king, or we need a criminal investigation. At the moment, this is a swirling mess. And the king looks like a fox caught in the headlights. So far, the only announcement he's made is that he will cooperate with any police investigation. He's never mentioned his brother yet. A lot of people saying now that Andrew has moved out of the Royal Lodge in Windsor Park and gone up to Sandringham, been given this grace and favour house, 5 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms with a staff, with a chef, with a butler and all that, and his brother, the king, is going to pay for him hundreds of thousands of pounds. A lot of people saying, why are you doing that? That's too much for this guy. So a big crisis. So I'm very pleased to say that the former editor of The Sun, who's got a great column in The Sun today, Dominic Mohan, joins me now. Welcome, Dom.
Hello.
So, Dominic, you're a former editor of The Sun. You've obviously presided over your great paper covering many, many royal crises. But I think this is the worst that any of us can remember. Now got 7 police forces investigating Andrew's alleged connection to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation, plus the financial allegations against him. And you are saying in The Sun today that it is time the police got real, and the Andy cops need to make this official. This investigation needs to be official.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it is the biggest crisis in living memory. I mean, obviously, Wallace and Mrs. Simpson, I'm sure, at the time would have been sensational and scandalous, but this involves, serious allegations of criminality and financial misconduct. So I think it's huge, and I do think that the police need to step up. I mean, they're arresting people at dawn for posting nasty messages on social media. So, why are they hanging about? And I think the palace need to really hang Andrew out to dry. I know they've moved him into a supposedly not very palatial home that most of us would love to live in. But, I think many of the public probably think that's even too much, giving him that. And I think, this is a precipice moment for the monarchy. And I think that if they don't open their doors and filing cabinets and allow the police to speak to, members of staff, personal protection officers, then I think, the monarchy is in a very, very tricky position and may lose the will of the people.
I think they're beginning, at this point, they have lost the will of the people. This reminds me, only it's worse, but this reminds me, you'll remember this as well, Dominic, back in '98, after the sad death of Princess Diana, the royal family got the mood of the nation very, very wrong, and the mood of the nation became angry. Exactly the same is going on now. You're right, the king needs to do something, but I'll tell you what would puncture the pressure a little bit, or at least some of the pressure, would be if the police, rather than saying, oh, we're looking into 7 police forces are looking into this, we're looking into that, they need to announce that the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is now officially at the centre of a police criminal investigation. It's not that difficult. He clearly is. Why won't they announce it, do you think?
I mean, I'm sure there's discussions going on with the palace of how to sort of manage this, and that awful word of what the optics are like. But I mean, look, surely they've got to treat him the same, Prince Andrew, the same. Sorry, the prince, the former prince, the same as they're treating Peter Mandelson. I mean, they've been ransacking his houses over the last few weeks. So why aren't they doing the same with the palace and with Andrew?
Yeah, doesn't it seem to you, I mean, I've been saying this, I mean, you and I have been around the houses and seen this syndrome in action many times. Doesn't this smack to you of, as you say, if you compare the way they've treated non-royal Peter Mandelson with the way they're treating royal, the former Prince Andrew, the King's brother, doesn't this smack to you of good old-fashioned royal deference, cap doffing, you know, be us ever so humble, we certainly won't investigate your brother, Your Majesty. Doesn't it smack of that a little?
Yes, I think it does. And in the column today, I sort of outlined that, you know, we've been around royal events and royals, and it is actually quite sickening to watch the sort of deference and reverence with which, the way they're treated. And I think, you know, by their staff, by their flunkies. And I think that's really what perhaps has even led to this, because there's just that literal feeling of entitlement and actually, you know, not listening to anybody. I mean, how on earth Andrew was permitted to do that news night into with Emily Maitlis, I don't know. I mean, you know, if you and I were working with him, we'd sort of media train him, try and see what his answers were, and then tell him, absolutely no, mate, you ain't going nowhere near 1 hour with Emily Maitlis. You might not even get through 5 minutes with Alison Hammond on the This Morning sofa.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I always feel this about the Royal Communications Office, you know, the publicists that surround the royal family. They expect, I mean, they are terribly deferential and cap-doffing to their employers, the royal family, the King and his family. And they expect the rest of the nation to be the same. And mostly, I think we are pretty deferential to the royal family, but there are these moments, we saw it after the death of Diana, and we are certainly seeing it now, when the mood of this nation changes from deference to, it's getting close now to a kind of cold fury. What the hell are you doing about this, man? Hey, King, your Majesty, you've made one short statement. You've never mentioned your brother. You know, stop closing ranks. Stop imagining this is just going to blow over and start talking to us. But a lot of the pressure, I think, could be relieved, as we've just discussed. A twin-pronged speech from the police and from the King, and the police announcing a proper full criminal investigation would release the pressure, wouldn't it?
Yes, I agree, and I think that their strategy tends to be something that they might have used in the 1950s or the 1960s. And times have changed a lot in a social media world where news is pumping around so quickly. You know, that they're very slow off the mark. And we saw this, like you say, after Diana's death, if you remember. They didn't even put the flag above Buckingham Palace at half-mast, and that caused a lot of anger. And I do think that, you know, people, I can feel it. I can, you know,
yeah, me too.
What they maybe don't understand is that to younger generations, the royals don't mean as much. And, you know, you can't really pull the wool over their eyes. And yeah, media strategies change, and I just don't think they've moved with the times.
I think you're exactly right. And the King, as I say, is looking a little like a fox caught in the headlights. And he's handling this so badly, I think, that there are rising calls for him to abdicate and let William take over. William, of course, I think more in tune with modern times. So this is a crisis the like of which, you know, I didn't think I would ever see. But I genuinely think this is a potential abdication crisis for Charles and a potential existential crisis for the monarchy.
I agree, and I think that, you know, you have to question Charles's judgment too, because he was very close to Jimmy Savile for many decades, you know, and you know, he was some sort of unofficial advisor to Charles. So that is a major misjudgment, and I just think we've seen a real gullibility, you know, with the royals over the years, you know, and especially when money's concerned. And you know, I just don't think they've moved with the times, and I think that, look, abdication maybe you're taking it a little bit too far there. But I think that, you know, the palace have to cooperate. The justice has to take its course, and then I think that would be the moment. Clean slate. Charles hands over the crown to William, and William, I noticed today, I think he did an interview with Radio 1 about young people's mental health. So again, that's no coincidence, right? He's trying to appeal to reach out to that, you know, more younger generation, which they kind of lost.
And I mean, we just spoke about this, but you know, the King has organised Andrew. You know, this is the idea of disgrace Andrew style. He's had to move out the 30-room Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park and into a 5-bedroom, very nice house on the Sandringham estate, where the King is paying for his chef and his domestic staff, so he'll be served and waited upon 24/7, cooked for. Apparently he doesn't even know how to boil an egg. And also the King is going to provide him with a very generous allowance, which you can guarantee will be a couple of £100,000 a year. Now, this is, you talked of optics earlier, this is really bad optics. The people don't want him to do this for Prince Andrew, and he ought to maybe think again.
Yes, and I think we'll see that unravel, because it'll get clearer, won't it, about his lifestyle up there. We haven't seen lots of him, but I know a journalist who's been up there talking to the locals, and they are furious. They do not want him there. You know, and yes, I mean, there's a cost of living crisis in this country, and he's living in a huge house, which I'm sure he thinks is way beneath him. But he was rattling around in I think he said 30 room. I actually think it was more than that. Why did he need all that space? Imagine the heating bills. Yeah. But then I guess we were probably contributing to those, weren't we? Yeah,
that's for sure. And as you say in your excellent column today in The Sun, it's on page 15, everybody, of today's Sun, Dominic Mohan, the royal family, you know, we both know going back, their impulse is always to close ranks, try and keep secrets. They're not a transparent organisation. We still don't know much about their money. We're only just beginning to find out how many of them seem to live for peppercorn rents in massive palaces and mansions all over the country. So all of that is slightly suspicious. But they better not close ranks and get secretive when the police come knocking on their door. As you say, tell all to Andy Cops or lose the will of the people. You're right, aren't you?
Yes, and I think, I mean, that's a no-brainer. They have to cooperate, otherwise it is an end game, I think. And I just think that, perhaps the rules have always behaved badly, going back centuries and centuries. But they weren't all captured on email, and they weren't captured on digital photography and videography. And how foolish does Andrew look, to even allow a photograph to be taken of him on all fours with a woman beneath him? I mean, it's humiliating stuff. And I just think, again, what that illustrates is it's an old-fashioned monarchy in a modern world, and the two things don't seem to connect, and they can't quite coexist, because it's very hard to keep secrets any longer. And Andrew's every move's going to be monitored up in Norfolk. The locals will be all over it, won't they? I mean, I don't think he can really go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly right. Dominic, really good to talk to you. Great column today in The Sun again. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much. Dominic Mohan there. He's got a column in The Sun. He's a former editor of The Sun, a very strong voice, who, like me, has been around a few years. We've seen royal scandals come and go. Some of them amount to a hill of beans, some of them don't. But this one, royal experts are in no doubt that this is far worse than the Edward VIII abdication crisis, and worse than the crisis surrounding the death of Princess Diana, when the royal family got the mood of the nation disastrously wrong. And this time, this is bad, folks. And the troubles for the former Prince Andrew are only just beginning, I think. This is going to get worse and worse and worse. But the police, come on. It's about time you announced an official criminal investigation. Don't be scared. They won't chop off your head. A couple of cops might lose their knighthood. Is that what this is all about? They love their knighthoods, don't they, top cops? We'll talk to a proper old-school cop after this break. We've got Peter Blexley. He will let us know what he thinks about the state of these investigations. So that next, stay tuned.
Join me, Ian Collins, every weekday from 1.
My 12-year-old. Obviously, he won't be 12 then, he'll be 16, but if he's anything like he is now, he shouldn't be anywhere near an election booth. Do you sympathise with him? Is he the victim of the 24-hour news cycle we just spoke of?
I think his failings are internal. He's useless, incompetent, has no political judgment.
Everything you need to know. All the breaking news right here on Talk.
Weekday afternoons from 1 o'clock. Only at the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Getting a lot of messages from people saying they've had enough of the Royals. Have you had enough of them? Should we get rid of them? 03444991000. Or, if you want to be a bit more positive, how do they dig their way out of this enormous abyss they seem to have plummeted into thanks to Prince Andrew? How do they sort this out? Let me know. 03444991000. One way, I think, one thing that I would think would seriously help this situation would be if the police got their act together and had the guts to announce a full criminal investigation. They just get, it's all elliptical. You know, today it's shocking allegations that 7 police forces, 7, are looking into Andrew's possible alleged involvement in his pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation, flying girls over from America to Britain. 90 flights have been recorded, allegedly, some of them whisked to Buckingham Palace to be entertained by the then Prince Andrew. Good, isn't it? Let's finally talk to former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Hi, Pete. Glad we got you in the end.
Yeah, good afternoon. Apologies for the tech issues earlier.
Yeah, we are besieged by them today. These stories today, you and I have discussed this before. Today we learned 7 police forces are looking into these flights, potentially 90 flights by the Lolita Express, which was private, Jeffrey Epstein's private plane. We understand he might have had 1 or 2, to maybe even as many as 3 private planes. So flying in with these girls allegedly on board, some of them being transported directly to see Prince Andrew for them to be entertained by his royal presence. So they're looking into that. We already know about the financial impropriety he is accused of, you know, selling secret memos and emails to his rich financier friends, Jeffrey Epstein, his banker friends, the David and Jonathan Rowland, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, you can barely move for allegations against this guy. And the cops love saying, yes, we're certainly looking into this. When are they going to announce a full, official criminal investigation and say that the King's brother is a suspect? When are they going to do that, Pete?
Well, that's a very good question. What we've already had in the last day or so is the National Police Chiefs Council, quite frankly, a lamentable organisation, saying that they are coordinating the investigations by all these other police services, and they've put the former Metropolitan Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner Louisa Rolfe in charge of this matter. Well, I've met her, and I would like to say that she's a tenacious, fearless kind of investigator who instills nothing but confidence into me, but quite frankly, I can't. Anyway.
You'd like to say that.
Yeah. We will have to wait and see how, under her stewardship, these multiple investigations go. But the trouble is, when you've got multi-agencies, multi-police forces investigating something, things tend to slip through the cracks, and there tends to be a lack of kind of cooperation and often a lack of consistency in the terms of reference and the approach. Now surely is the time for the Met Police Commissioner, the most senior police officer in the land to step forward and say, we are leading this investigation. We will create the terms of reference. We, in essence, will be in charge, because it's got to the point now where somebody has to get a very, very firm grip on all these allegations. I would have expected already one of the police services, perhaps Essex covering Stansted or Bedfordshire covering Luton Airport, because that might feature, to say we are already liaising with the Civil Aviation Authority, for example, because that body has a team of investigators, many of them former detectives of absolute iron resolve, who might be able to assist the police with aviation regulations that may have been breached, because this investigation is going to grow. It's got to grow its tentacles to go into every dark corner and turn over every stone and see what is revealed.
As you said to me a couple of days ago, Pete, that there's a stark difference between the way the police have come down on Peter Mandelson like a ton of bricks, very, very swiftly, raiding his homes, taking boxes out, computers, all of that usual stuff. It's almost the British equivalent of the perp walk, isn't it? And there's a big difference between that and the way they are reacting to Andrew, against whom there is very similar evidence. In fact, the charges against Andrew are a lot worse because of the child sex allegations, the sex trafficking allegations against him as well. So the police, it just seems like a mess. You're an old school copper. You would have felt his collar by now, wouldn't you?
Get a grip. That's what somebody's got to do. Take charge. If you listen carefully, you can hear Andrew Mountbatten Windsor bent over the shredder as we speak, possibly. There should not be this kind of delay. This investigation needs to be dynamic. We need to hear about premises being searched. We need to hear about documents being seized, if need be. We need to hear about evidence being gathered. There are the type of comments we should hear, and we need to hear people being either called in for interview, or if sufficient grounds for arrest exist, then we need to hear people being arrested. But please let me speak just for a minute or two about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's former bodyguards when he was Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
Just remember, yes, they are Metropolitan Police officers, but in essence, they are a private security company providing close protection to the royals. They never speak. They never raise a problem because, like so many aspects of policing, if you raise a problem, you become the problem. And there has clearly been, in my opinion, too many people, too many of these close protection officers looking the other way. Well, perhaps the time of reckoning is coming. Perhaps they need to be visited. Perhaps they need to be interviewed under caution. Because remember, if you do nothing in public office, that can still constitute an offence of misconduct in public office. So it needs to be a huge investigation. It needs to move at a lot faster pace than it is, and somebody needs to be in charge, getting a grip.
Well, exactly right. And there are now stories appearing saying that the Royal Protection detectives who used to look after Andrew, who may or may not have seen some very nefarious activities, the allegations are that they watched a lot of nefarious goings on, that they are about to be under investigation. So no doubt they'll announce that. But when are they going to feel the collar of Prince Andrew? I mean, it would do the royal family a favour, because this is now a tinderbox situation. The pressure is rising, and the more the police kick the can down the road and just say, yeah, we're looking into this, we're looking into that, we're talking to prosecutors, just nick him, eh?
Well, if there are grounds to arrest somebody, that person, whosoever it is, needs to be arrested. And let's remember, the King came out with a clear and unequivocal statement just 2 or 3 weeks ago when he said that Buckingham Palace will cooperate with any such police inquiry. So come on, the police, don't be scared, do your job, you serve the public, get on with it.
If you were on this case, Pete, from what you've seen, I mean, not just the sex trafficking allegations, the 90 flights, but of course the stuff that's in black and white in the Epstein files, these emails and memos that he forwarded to his financier mates that were British secret information. Would you, if you were on this case, would you have arrested him by now?
If there was sufficient grounds to arrest, any such arrest would have taken place at the very earliest opportunity, which gives you the greatest chance of seizing evidence that may be important in any future court case.
Pete, it's really good to talk to you. We're glad we got you in the end. Peter Blexley, their former Met Police detective. So here's Prince Andrew over the shredder now, getting rid of evidence while the police drag their heels. Graham Stringer, Labour MP on the Chagos Islands next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, after that hectic first hour with a few technical difficulties, let's hope this second hour of today's drive time goes a little more smoothly. We got there in the end, but that was stressful. But here we are, hour two, and let's get cracking with our next guest. We want to go through some of the big stories of the day, but particularly the Chagos Islands issue. A warm welcome to the show to the Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. Welcome, Graham.
Good evening.
Now, you didn't mince your words about this story, this exclusive that the Daily Mail got, which is about a guy called Philippe Sands. He describes himself as a great friend of Keir Starmer. He's a human rights lawyer. Keir Starmer's a human rights lawyer. He's also a friend of the Attorney General, another human rights lawyer, Richard Hermer. He acted for Mauritius between 2010 and 2024 in the long-running process that has led to us giving the Chagos Islands to Mauritius for reasons that escape most of us. Mauritius being, of course, one of China's best friends. Also, we're going to have to pay for giving away the Chagos Islands. For some reason, we're going to have to pay them £101 million a year until we've given them 35 billion quid. We're going to have to give them so much money that they're cancelling all income tax for Mauritians. It's a baffling deal. Now, it emerges that while Philip Sands KC was acting for Mauritius, there was a pot of money coming from the Mauritians of around about £8 million, 8,300,000 to be precise. Now, we don't know what Mr. Sands' share of that was, but you can rest assured it wasn't £5. You've made it clear that you think that it would be better for this country if we didn't have a Prime Minister and an Attorney General who thought that international law was more important than the interests of this country, and maybe better for Britain if we didn't have our lawyers, British lawyers, going off to work for foreign countries to seal deals that don't do us any good at all.
I think that's a fair summary. Basically, the Attorney General, Lord Herman, has made it explicit that he believes that international law is superior to British democracy. Well, I just think that's wrong. What it means in practice is that the International Court that ruled, gave an advisory ruling on the Chagos deal, one of the judges was Chinese. So what we're saying is a judge from China involved in genocide has more influence than the British electorate in determining the expenditure of £35 billion and the future of the Chagos Islanders, because the human rights that have been forgotten in this are the rights of the Chagos people, who I think Sands has advised the Mauritian government that they should have a law that makes it illegal for people from Chagos to criticise the deal. So the whole thing stinks from beginning to end.
I mean, you know, it's a free world, free country. If British lawyers, British KCs, you know, are hired by foreign countries, I suppose that has to be allowable. But it's got a nasty flavour, hasn't it? That here we have a close friend of the Prime Minister and a friend of the Attorney General, a KC of this country. We don't know how much money he actually made personally, but, you know, has got a share of a pot of £8 million to negotiate away the interests of Great Britain. That doesn't sit well with me. Does it sit well with you?
No, the point I was making, not that lawyers should be restricted from not representing other governments. That would be wrong.
Absolutely.
I was making the point that this guy and some of his mates are not fundamentally interested in human rights. They're mercenaries, interested in money, and ideologically they're interested in undermining British democracy. And I think both those things are, when they lead to this country spending money we don't have, that I'd prefer to be spent here on whatever priorities we think they are, then I think the whole deal is bad, and we should get out of these international agreements, whether it's the European Convention on Human Rights or the Convention on Refugees, which means we can't protect our own borders, and it's costing us a fortune. I know that sounds strange given the history of the last 50 or 60 years, and we're all against torture, we're all in favour of human rights, but having a vehicle for human rights controlled by people who are antagonistic to this country and not allowing our own courts and our own people to determine it, I just think is wrong. These conventions were sorted out at the end of the Second World War, when people understandably were looking to solutions so that the dreadful things that happened in the Second World War didn't happen again. That time's passed, and we're in a world that is splitting into a Chinese section and a European and North American section, and we're letting people who, let's put it politely, are our adversaries control what happens in this country.
Yeah, I'm never quite sure what the distinction is between a human rights lawyer and a lawyer. I think it's just that human rights lawyers are rather keener on signalling their virtue than workaday lawyers. But this morning on our breakfast show here, Graham, we had lined up an interview with these Chagossians who've gone back from Britain to, if you like, reclaim their own homeland. So they sort of staged this launch and they got back to their home country. So this is their land. They landed on the beach and were served with a notice from the British government telling them to get the hell off. We've got a clip of this, so we'll just play that if you don't mind.
We're just being served this piece of paper to leave the island, to leave my homeland from the British patrol, from the British Indian Ocean Territory Patrol. They just served me this, which is absolutely a disgrace.
He's got a point, hasn't he? I mean, Keir Starmer's very keen on sovereignty. He certainly was about Greenland when President Trump said he wanted to take that country over. But he doesn't seem to care much about the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, does he?
No, he doesn't. And he doesn't seem to care very much about the Labour Party manifesto that said precisely that we wouldn't be giving away British overseas territories, of which the Chagos Islands are one. If you're interested, anybody can get it on the internet. It's page 120 of the Labour Party manifesto. So the Prime Minister and the Attorney General are not just going against the human rights of Chagossians, they're going against our own manifesto that was put before the British people. I guess most people didn't vote on the basis of that commitment, but nevertheless, that's what we said we would do when we were standing for election.
Do you find this, you know, you're a loyal member of the Labour Party, an esteemed veteran member of the Labour Party. Do you find this behaviour on the part of your leader, the government, the Prime Minister, do you find it embarrassing?
Precisely. I have said on a number of occasions the nature of being a supporter of the governing party is that they will make decisions that are difficult, that you disagree with, because governing, even governing well, is difficult. But I expect reasoned explanations, not political somersaults every other day, and not decisions that go against our principles and what we stood on. And it is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the poor junior ministers who have to go out and support it, and then a fortnight later are told that they've got to go out and argue the exact opposite case. So embarrassing is the right word.
Well, talking of embarrassing, the Prime Minister today, I mean, after his, shall we say, humiliating U-turn over the local elections, he was warned that if Reform UK got them to court, they would lose that legal battle. And in fact, they had to sort of uninvite the 30 councils or so who had chosen to postpone or cancel their local elections. They had to uncancel them. The Prime Minister today is saying he's blaming them. He said, well, don't blame me. They made the decision. You know, they were the ones who wanted to call off their elections. Well, that's disingenuous, isn't it?
It's slightly worse than that, actually. I mean, I'm an ex-leader of Manchester City Council. I'm an elected MP. I believe fundamentally in democracy. So cancelling elections was bad enough. But what the government did, and what makes the Prime Minister's statement ridiculous, is that he gave people with a vested interest in staying in office the decision about whether they should cancel elections. If the government was going to take a decision, then I think cancelling elections was wrong. But giving the right to people whose vested interests were there was completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, in effect, what the government did, what Starmer and the gang did, was to offer councils all over the country, not just Labour councils, mostly Labour, but there are a few Tories as well. Would you like to stay in power, or would you like to have an election and lose power? So obviously they all chose that to stay in power, and today Keir Starmer is blaming them. So, well, don't blame me, they made the choice. You know, this is ridiculous.
Well, it is ridiculous. He made the choice to give people with an interest in staying in office, when not all, but most of the opinion polls were saying they would lose office. Well, you have to be a person of very high principle to say, I will vote. I will be the turkey that votes for an early Christmas, and most of them chose not to. To be fair, not all of them chose that. Some took the principled decision and said, no, we will stand for election. We are here to represent people, and we can't do that if they don't vote for us. One of the most ridiculous things a government minister said was that they shouldn't be bothered about elections. They should be bothered about holes in the road. Well, we choose at elections the people we think best for dealing with the holes in the road and lots of other local issues.
Well, I hope you don't mind if I ask you now, Graham, you know, what one tends to ask politicians across the spectrum. I mean, how much longer can Keir Starmer last?
I think the critical point for him is not the by-election, whichever way it goes in Gorton and Denton. Governments lose by-elections. It's best not to lose them, but they do. They are they're headlines for a moment, and then people forget about them.
Yeah.
I think what will be the crisis point for both the Prime Minister and the government is the local elections, or are the local elections, and the elections in Wales and Scotland. If they go as badly as predicted, then we are. What does the Labour Party do now? What does the Prime Minister do now? And there will be major discussions and decisions made at that point.
A couple of funny quotes one from an unnamed cabinet minister who said of Starmer, "We have nothing to fear but Keir himself," pointing to the fact that most of the mistakes that this government has made are down to Keir and his personality. And the other interesting comment, I'd like to hear what you think about this, was he said, somebody said, prime ministerial authority is like virginity. Once it's gone, it's gone. He has lost all authority, hasn't he?
He's got authority in the cabinet, but I know from private discussions with MPs and party members, mainly in my own constituency, but from some other parts of the country, they're desperate. You know, they care about the Labour Party, they care about what the Labour Party stands for, and they're not sure what to do. And in those circumstances, obviously the Prime Minister's authority is at the very least questionable. I mean, I'll just give you another quote that drives me around the bend. It was a moral imperative to do something about the benefits system, basically to do what the Labour Party was set up to do, to get people into work. And we need to spend some money to make sure that there are good pathways for people who are unemployed on the benefit system to get back into work, to get retrained, to get support to do that. And then, having said it was a moral imperative, nothing's going to happen this Parliament. Well, that should be our priority.
And what about this U-turning, which has now become his hobby? I mean, it's getting ridiculous, and the nation's contempt for this guy is growing by the day. He can't. What I mean, I've been around a few years, so have you, Graham. I've never seen anything like this. A government, a prime minister that constantly announces policies, big policies. We're going to scrap the winter fuel allowance. Yes, farmers' inheritance tax. We're going to rack that up. And then, oh, massive protest. Don't like that. Let's change our minds. Now he's done it. We're trying to actually get the right estimate, but it's probably at least 14 times, maybe 15 times, major U-turns. This is unsustainable. This is ridiculous. Have you ever seen anything like this? Why does he do this?
Sadly, the last government was in a similar place, and we promised to be the adults taking over and end the chaos, and we haven't done. And the Prime Minister, let me put it this way, the Prime Minister's job is almost impossible. And I have no doubt that Keir Starmer has tried his best to do that. But I think it's fair to say that he's failed at that. And we as a political party need to think what to do next.
And in terms of the failing government, Keir Starmer's failing administration that the public look upon with increasing dismay, this, of course, is an opportunity for Nigel Farage and Reform UK. You know, he named a few of his alleged shadow cabinet ministers the other day. I mean, how much of a danger is the rise of Reform UK to Labour coming, you know, with the election, admittedly probably a fair way away, but it is coming, and that may be quite a day of reckoning, mightn't it be? How much of a danger do you think Reform UK are to Labour? Do you think that Farage stands a fair chance of being the next Prime Minister?
We are providing them with open goals. If you say you're going to scrap elections, that's bad enough. But if you then have to spend millions on legal fees, reforms legal fees, you have to put millions back into local government for last-minute preparations, then you are writing reforms leaflets. I mean, we started off talking about Chagos. I imagine that will be over in the centre of a lot of publicity that they put out. The Prime Minister says that reform are a great danger, and I think they are. But we seem to be helping them. The best way to beat reform is to have good policies and administer them effectively and efficiently. You can't fight reform if the administration and the government, the administration of government is going as badly as it is.
Tell you what, Graham, I wish all politicians were like you. Thank you so much. That was a pleasure. Graham Stringer, MP, telling it like it is. He's a Labour MP. You heard what he was saying. He's being honest about Starmer's catastrophe, honest about the way the Labour government is making such a hash of it. It is, as he put it, it is providing open goals to Nigel Farage, Labour MP. Plus, really telling it like it is about the Chagos Islands. Did one of the Prime Minister and Richard Herman, the Attorney General's best friends, Philippe Sands, make a fortune, millions of pounds, out of representing Mauritius to organise us having to give Mauritius, the Chagos Islands, the very strategic Chagos Islands, and for some reason give them 101 million quid a year to the tune of them getting 35 billion pounds off. That's what I can't get my head around. We're giving them the islands, which we shouldn't, but we are. Why then do we have to give them a mountain of money, 35 billion quid? As I said, do you know, we're giving them so much money for giving them the Chagos Islands. It's like going into a shop, or it's like buying a car. You know, I'll buy this car. So you go out, you say, yeah, I'll take this Jaguar, and then saying to the car dealer, you owe me 20 grand for the car I'm going to drive away. So we're giving them so much money, the Mauritians, that they're cancelling income tax for every citizen. Why are we doing this? And how much money is Philippe Sands making from this deal, from representing a foreign country against our interests, against the interests of Britain? Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about a very disturbing story that paedophiles, suspected paedophiles, are being arrested at an unprecedented record rate. 1,000 every month. during 1 week, something like 250 were arrested recently. More and more people are being arrested for alleged paedophile crimes. What is going on there? Let's try and find out after the break. So stick around, folks.
We genuinely are on resignation watch. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Labour MPs, they say, listen, Keir, your position is untenable. This is all about appointing that rat, Peter Mandelson, who faces a criminal investigation.
Can Keir Starmer survive the Mandelson scandal? We have breaking news for you. We've just been talking about, of course, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff. We've now had another resignation from Number 10. And Keir Starmer's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, has now also resigned. The plot is thickening. The noose is tightening.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, I saw this story this morning. I thought, well, that's strange. Record numbers of people are being arrested for paedophile offences, either alleged or genuine. So, record number of arrests, 1,000 a month, every month. This is unprecedented. In 1 week alone during January, forces across the UK made 252 arrests for paedophile allegations, including 118 people who went on to be charged. Another 35 were sentenced in court, and 407 children were safeguarding. So have we got some sort of explosion of paedophilia? Let's hope not. Let's speak to former senior police officer who specialises in child protection, Jim Gamble. Welcome, Jim.
Good. Hello.
What's going on here? 1,000 paedophiles or alleged paedophiles being arrested every month. Unprecedented numbers of people being pulled in for alleged child sex abuse. So what's happening here, Jim?
Well, we're reaping the harvest that we sowed many years ago by failing to take this seriously. Successive governments have known this was happening. You know, we're talking about 1,000 now. A couple of years ago, we were talking about 600 a month. If we go back a few years before that, we were talking 400. And I can remember going back to the time when we thought, you know, we were dealing with about 90. The fact of the matter is there is no active deterrent. If 10 people go into a court anywhere in the UK today and they admit downloading child sex abuse material, 8 of the 10 of them will walk free with a slap on the wrist. So there is no active deterrent, and that is a huge problem. So these, individuals are nesting in the darkest parts of the internet. They come out to hunt down our children, but there's been an absolute failure by successive governments in investing in police numbers to get into the online space to hold these people to account. And then, of course, you can make new laws till the cows come home. But ultimately, if you don't, when you do get people into the court, apply deterrence-based sentencing by sending them to prison for a long time, then they walk straight out and think, well, that wasn't so bad. That's not so serious. And that's where we are.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, because, of course, we all remember Hugh Edwards, the BBC's in-house paedophile, who, in the manner of these things, like all first-time paedophile offenders, or nearly all first-time paedophile offenders, walked free from court, got some suspended sentence, fine and all that. We have in this country, Jim, as you were just alluding to, near enough an official policy that first-time paedophile offenders do not go to jail, which, as you say, is almost an incentive. It's certainly not a deterrent. We need to change that, don't we?
Well, we do need to change it, and change is long overdue. But at the end of the day, it's not the first time a predator is caught, or the first time a predator commits an offence. Predators are caught, and we give them the benefit of the doubt if they plead guilty. But actually, they have been doing this for years. There are very few people get caught the first time they go online. What if someone goes online seeking out images of children, child sex abuse material, they're telling you they have a deviant sexual interest in children. So why on earth would you ever let them walk out of court? Why aren't we delivering deterrence-based sentencing? I go back as far as the Gary Glitter, the Paul Gadd convictions way back when. And people make the assumption that because people are looking at images, they're not actually committing what we call contact offences, where they commit physical contact with a child. But you don't know that. All you do know is they have an active sexual interest in children. They could have abused a child yesterday, and they could be going online today because they do not have access. And too many people hide behind this, those people that download child sex abuse material won't necessarily go on to commit a contact offence. That's an absolute nonsense in my experience. They've either already committed it or are likely to go on to commit it. There is no deterrent, and the government is very good at pointing the finger at the big tech companies, and that's a good thing. No problem with that. Make them work harder to make the space safer. But the government need to pause and look in the mirror and think, have they invested in policing? No, they haven't. Policing, there's lower numbers than ever before. And if there's lower numbers on the street, there are low numbers in the online space trying to make our children and young people safer. So they're talking about banning mobile phones. So we're going to punish the child for our inability to make this environment safer. So it's a nuanced space. We've got to be really careful that we don't become involved in knee-jerk reactions. And of course, we've got the National Crime Agency's, annual strategic threat assessment coming out. And when they say children safeguarded, the proof of the pudding is really when you begin to strip that down. What does that mean? Because I remember in days gone by when we looked at that metadata, if someone who was downloading images was also involved in another environment, like a youth club, then you could count the numbers and say, well, we've arrested that person, so we've safeguarded that number of children. Whenever I was involved in CEOP, we didn't let the counting be that easy. You had to prove an active link between that person and the child. So I think it's easy to roll out these statistics. It's easy to heighten fear and anxiety. And from a government perspective, it's easy to make new laws. But let's start putting people in prison. If we really want to, slim down the bulging group of paedophiles that are on the internet, then let's make sure they realize every time they engage a child, they are risking going to prison for a very long time. And I include every time they download a child sex abuse image that they use for their own sexual gratification.
I don't know what the situation is in other countries, but it does seem that we in Britain, seem to suffer from a plethora of paedophiles. We seem to have a real paedophile problem. It may be that is commensurate with what happens in countries all over the world. But is there any mileage in considering that Britain has a particular paedophile problem, something in the British personality, the makeup of British people that makes them more, prone to child sex abuse?
No, I don't think we are. I don't think we are more tolerant of paedophiles, and I don't think we have more paedophiles than anywhere else.
Okay.
The problem is when you go into the online space, the world converges. So of the 800-odd individuals who are online at any given time in the UK, if you look at some of the threat assessments who represent a threat to our children, some of them will not be in the UK, but they'll represent a threat to our children in the UK. Mm-hmm. And certainly in the old days of Operation OR, when the UK really began to get to grips with this, we were very active, we were persistent, we were consistent in tracking down people who did this. What happened is others came out with a much softer approach, saying, well, we cannot deal with this. We cannot send everyone to prison. Well, let people out of prison who haven't paid their poll tax. Let people out of prison who've been caught for petty theft. And let's put these people who represent a threat to our children where they belong, in custody. Because the one thing for sure is when they're inside, they're not hurting anyone outside.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And also the idea that somehow or other these people can be placed onto the straight and narrow, rehabilitated. It just doesn't happen. You cannot change a paedophile. You can't change...
Not in my experience.
You can't change people's sexual proclivities. You just can't, Jim. You know that. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That was former senior police officer Jim Gamble, who specialises in child protection. He's right. It is almost an official policy in this country that whatever you do as a paedophile, your first-time offence, your first child sex abuse offence, you won't go to jail. Because, of course, the prisons are full up. Oh, well, let's allow this predator, a person who preys on children sexually, let's let them walk the streets. No problem there, as long as the prisons aren't too crowded. It's ridiculous. Hugh Edwards should have gone to prison, shouldn't he? Should Hugh Edwards have gone to jail? Should paedophiles go to jail on their first offence? I say yes. What do you say? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Dame Antonia Romeo. I know, me neither. She's the woman that Keir Starmer wants to be the first ever female cabinet secretary, but the evidence that suggests she should not get that job is stacking up more by the day. We'll talk about that next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Don't forget, in 20 minutes or so, just after the 6 p.m. news, I'm very pleased to announce that we will be joined by Rupert Lowe, the independent MP for Great Yarmouth, former Reform UK man, of course, who sensationally last Friday formed his own political party, had a movement called Restore Britain, turned it into a fully fledged political party last Friday, and really put the cat among the pigeons. He has not spoken on the broadcast media since doing that. This will be his first broadcast interview, and you want to stay tuned for that. This is going to be fascinating, folks. Rupert Lowe on forming a party, Restore Britain, that will mount a direct challenge to his former party, Reform UK, after the 6 o'clock news. So Rupert Lowe, just after 6. I mean it. Stay tuned. You don't want to go anywhere. Now, before we get to that, though, let's talk about Antonia Romeo, or Dame Antonia Romeo. They say she's the Mandarin who knows where the bodies are buried, but the evidence against her, or suggestions that she is not fit to do what Keir Starmer wants her to do, which is to be the first ever female cabinet secretary, is stacking up. Now, when she was in New York as the New York consul working for the Foreign Office, she was accused, suffered allegations that she bullied staff. She was alleged to have harassed staff, so it was bullying, harassment, and abused her expenses. We're hearing that she may have paid some of those expenses back, maybe all of them, I don't know. For example, the former permanent Undersecretary at the Foreign Office, Simon MacDonald, now Lord MacDonald, has made it very clear, because he used to be her boss, that he doesn't think she's fit for purpose when it comes to the Cabinet Secretary. He went on telly to say, no, you need a lot more diligence on this woman. Let's talk to journalist at Conservative Home, Harry Phibbs. Harry, the Prime Minister very keen to put in the first woman Cabinet Secretary, but it does look as if Antonia Romeo's passage into that exalted role may not happen, and it's certainly going to be very difficult. More and more critics saying she can't do this job. Too many problems in her past. She comes with too much baggage.
Yes, I've read the reports, and I dare say there'll be more to come. There's obviously a briefing war going on. It seems that this is Keir Starmer's preferred choice, but then he's got a record of wobbling, hasn't he, when he comes under pressure. So who knows if he'll pursue it. I'm a bit inclined to be sympathetic to her, actually, because the some of these claims about bullying often can simply mean that people in the public sector bureaucracy get exasperated at people failing to do their job effectively, and they tell them directly what the inadequacies are in terms of their performance, and then people rather than taking the criticism on the chin, then go running to HR and dressing it up as bullying, don't they? So the thing about expenses, I'm a bit more concerned about. And the people, these are well-paid people in the public sector, and the taxpayers' money, they should be treated with respect. So if they're sort of living it up on expenses, I'm a bit less sympathetic with that one. But no, there've been a lot of accusations that thrown around about bullying, and then they're investigated, and there's a lot of rigmarole around it, and often they don't end up to very much.
I know exactly what you mean. That there are reports that she's a no-nonsense woman who wants to get things done and wants her staff to be efficient, and if they're not, she lets them know. That in today's modern touchy-feely atmosphere can cause problems. However, I think where the ante was upped in her case was last week, an extraordinary appearance by her former boss, the former permanent secretary, undersecretary at the Foreign Office, the then Simon MacDonald, now Lord MacDonald, who went on to Channel 4 News, made it clear that he really did not want to be stating his case on television, but had put himself forward to the Prime Minister, to the government, to say, I want to help you with the vetting process about this woman that you want to be the Cabinet Secretary. He talked in elliptical terms, but he made it very clear that he does not think she should get the job. And when he offered his services to the vetting process, he said he has been ignored, and in frustration he went onto TV to make his situation public. And what we're thinking about here is has got shades of Peter Mandelson. The Prime Minister in his urge, his impulse to appoint Peter Mandelson to the role of our ambassador in America, overruled a lot of advice from advisors, apparently from the intelligence services, and put him in anyway. Now, you would think that with Antonio Romeo, no matter what the veracity of the allegations against her is, that he might, the Prime Minister might be once bitten, twice shy. No, 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 I won't go there. Wouldn't you think that?
I'm not sure it's a fair analogy. I mean, Peter Mandelson was an astonishing appointment. Put Jeffrey Epstein to one side. I mean, how many times can somebody be deceased and leave government and then get being brought back? I mean, that was just bizarre. The Peter Mandelson. I think probably there's a broader point about the civil service. I mean, most of them are. I'm sure most of them are lefties, and most of them would probably think that if anything, their criticism of the Labour Party was it wasn't. Wasn't left-wing enough, and Keir Starmer wasn't left-wing enough, and just you get other private sector jobs where most people would be Conservative or Reform UK voters, be plumbers or publicans or estate agents or bankers or whatever. In the public sector bureaucracy, there most of the people are going to be on the left. But what they should also be is professional about allowing policy to be decided by the politicians. And if you get a minister. Starting always with the Prime Minister who says, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a clear direction. These are our beliefs. These are our policies. Then the civil servants ultimately have to get on with implementing the job. I think the problem we've got really is that the Prime Minister is drifting around, doesn't have any clear beliefs what he stands for. All these endless U-turns, and so that's why we get a dysfunctional government, and to try and think, oh, we need one civil servant who's of higher caliber than another civil servant is missing the big picture. Really, it's ultimately the politicians, the ministers, who should take the blame for the hopeless mess.
Well, something like 15 months ago, maybe a little longer, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, overruled advice not to make Sir Chris Wormold the Cabinet Secretary. He had been in charge of the Housing Department, permanent Under-Secretary there. And the Prime Minister was advised, don't give him the Cabinet Secretary's job. He's a plodder. He wasn't very good at housing. You don't want to give him the job. The Prime Minister ignored that advice and appointed him. 15 months later, he fires him, disappointed in his performance, apparently. But my point would be, yes, of course, the most egregious of these examples is Peter Mandelson, but he did it with Chris Wormold. He is now being advised not to appoint Antonio Romeo. If he does appoint her, it'll be a case of the fact that this Prime Minister just does not learn, won't it?
I think it's irrelevant in a way, because he's always looking for other people to blame because he doesn't have any sense of direction. And I mean, he has this where he keeps changing his communications people and his Downing Street chief of staff, and he's put them in an impossible position. If he's saying this is the message to communicate, this is our strategy, this is the direction we're taking the country, and if there isn't any clarity about what he stands for, then however good the strategists are and the communications people are and the implementation, if they've got nothing to work with, then it's not going to it's going to unravel. I mean, I would think that probably if you actually had a radical, clear agenda, that Dame Antonia would probably be good in that she would say this age knows where the boys are been. She would be willing to be tough and push and do her best to try and push through change through the bureaucratic system. Yeah. But if there's no coherence there at the centre, then however good or bad the civil servants are becomes a bit irrelevant, doesn't it?
Well, Harry, roll up. It's the end of the Keir show. The only question now is when the curtain actually falls. Really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Harry Phibbs there, journalist at Conservative Home. I bet you Antonio Romeo doesn't get the job now. Maybe she deserves it, maybe she doesn't, but there's too much baggage. We can't have this Prime Minister overruling advice yet again. Seems to be his shtick, it's what he does. He wants to put people into jobs, Peter Mandelson, Sir Chris Warmold. Gets told, no, bad idea. The intelligence services told him, don't put Mandelson into the Washington embassy. He overrules it, gives them the job, and then all hell breaks loose. Surely it's not going to be third time unlucky for the Prime Minister with this woman, Dame Antonia Romeo. One of her transgressions, apparently, was she charged expenses on a flight, business class flight back from New York to London to attend the BAFTA Awards. Highly important civil service duty. She's notorious for wanting to hobnob with the rich and famous. So should this woman get the job? 0344 4991 1000. When we come back, sports news editor at The Sun, Jake Sanders, joins me to find out what's going on in the wonderful world of sport. That next, stay tuned.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Jake Sanders, sports news editor at The Sun, is in the studio. Welcome, Jake. Let's talk about the race row engulfing the Champions League. Vinicius Junior, the Brazilian forward for Real Madrid, walked off in ugly scenes that broke out after he celebrated his goal near the corner flag, but it seems to have erupted into a race row. What's the nature of that?
So, yeah, we should really be talking about an amazing Vinicius Junior goal, which won Real Madrid the game, but obviously the ugly scenes, as you mentioned, after Vinicius is claiming that Gianluca Prestiani, the Benfica player, racially abused him, and UEFA are now investigating into it. And he said he appeared to say something with his top over his mouth, so it's going to be hard to find evidence. But if UEFA find,
what do you mean, it's sort of premeditated?
Yeah. So if UEFA find enough evidence, then he could be facing up to a 10-game ban. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
Well, his teammate Trent Alexander called it a disgrace to football, and Benfica boss Jose Mourinho is pictured in your paper looking extremely heated and furious. I mean, whatever the truth of this, we don't want to see this in football, do we?
No, we as I say, we should be talking about an amazing goal, and we've seen this kind of thing happen before. With Vinicius Junior, he's been twice sent off in La Liga for reacting badly for, racial abuse, whether that would be from fellow players or from, fans. So it's ugly. No one wants to see it, and there's rightly been a strong reaction from a lot of former players, and all of his Real Madrid teammates have been backing him.
So full investigation going on now into exactly what happened.
Correct.
Yeah. OK, let's move on to something rather more salubrious. Well, it's Wolves against Arsenal tonight. I mean, Wolves are obviously done and dusted. They're going down. But Arsenal need to win this.
They do need to win it. It's... they slipped up last week against Brentford. They've got Tottenham on Sunday, which will not be easy despite Tottenham's struggles. This is an absolute must-win game for Arsenal if they want to win the title. Top against bottom, 4 times in Premier League history, the bottom side has beaten the top side. 2 of them were Wolves, which could be a good omen for Wolves fans if they're clinging on to getting just a second win of the season.
I mean, they've come around a bit, haven't they, since the new guy?
Yeah, they sort of that sort of died down slightly. They beat West Ham, and they had a couple.
I could beat West Ham on my own.
Yeah, they had a couple of good results in January, but that sort of tailed off a bit. They won in the FA Cup and they drew with Forest last week, so maybe they could potentially spring a surprise.
Well, you know what they say: when you got nothing to lose. So they could give it their best shot. Should be an interesting game. I spoke yesterday to Mike Anstead about this. But old Saka, Bukayo Saka, we were talking in terms of £300,000 a week for a 24-year-old player. He's instantly the highest paid player at Arsenal. But I've just seen on your back page that is a deal over 5 years worth £78 million. 24-year-old.
Yeah, it's astonishing, and ironically, he's not having that great of a season despite Arsenal going for 4 trophies. Him personally, he's sort of struggled a bit with form and fitness, but they're paying for a 24-year-old that could be at the top for another 7, 8, 9, 10 years, so they're paying for the potential rather than exactly what he's going to give them right now.
Yeah, he's the kind of player that in 2 years' time the going rate will be 300 grand a year. So probably a good move, very wise move by Arsenal. Van Dijk says that Szoboszlai has everything to become the future Liverpool captain. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's quite interesting because obviously Van Dijk is the current Liverpool captain, but he's not getting any younger, and their vice captain Andy Robertson might leave this summer, so they're going to need a natural leader to come in. And Szoboszlai has been the shining light in an otherwise pretty glum and depressing season from a Liverpool perspective. So essentially he's been stepping up, and Van Dijk thinks that him stepping up on the pitch could make him a future potential leader.
And what's the future for Van Dijk then? He's the captain now, so is he...
Well, he signed a new deal. I think it was a 2-year deal last summer, so at the end of the season he'll have a year left, and whether Liverpool are going to extend it again, who knows? His form has sort of fallen off a cliff this season since they won the league, so and they'll inevitably be looking at replacements in probably this summer, despite him still being there. So they'll possibly need a new captain in the months ahead, for sure.
Yeah, I might have asked you this before, certainly maybe you or one of your colleagues. What's gone wrong at Liverpool? I've never seen anything quite like this. That they were the runaway champions last year. No one could touch them, virtually invincible. It's always a really difficult act to pull off, a Premier League victory 2 seasons in a row. But you might have thought they might have been there or thereabouts. Why are they so far off the pace?
It's an interesting one because they started the season really well. I think they won their first 5 Premier League games. They spent a ton of money. But they've just had problems all over the pitch. Isak came in, didn't hit the ground running, broke his leg. Wirtz, who cost over 100 million, took a while to get going. They're missing Trent. They didn't really replace Trent properly. Andy Robertson's form's dipped. Van Dijk's form's dipped. Yeah. That just a combination of, they sold Luis Diaz, and the Jota news possibly has had a negative effect on the team. Him obviously sadly passing away, and it's just a combination of loads of things coming together.
A perfect storm of everything that could have gone wrong.
They started to concede a lot of late goals, and individuals have not performed, and slots come under pressure, and has culminated in pretty poor season.
Live on TalkSport 2 right now is Newcastle Champions League game against Qarabag. Good news for Eddie Howe. The 2-0 up.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was 0-0 when I left my desk.
2 goals in under 10 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
I'm here to give you information.
That makes things easier.
And it makes things easier for Eddie Howe because he's been under fire.
Yeah, exactly. He has been under fire, but this would be 3 away wins in a row in 3 different competitions in a week. So those rumours of potentially him being sacked or leaving are probably put to bed for the time being now.
Any interesting games coming up at the weekend on Saturday? I think the big game of the weekend obviously is Fulham away to Sunderland.
Before the North London derby, Man City against Newcastle on Saturday night. City will be trying to put the pressure on Arsenal again and hopefully be taking advantage of perhaps a leggy Newcastle team who have got the long trip to Azerbaijan tonight, as you've just mentioned. So our City, who are not playing in the week.
Yeah, they might be knackered, I suppose.
Yeah, it's quite a long way.
But I think in the last 2 weeks, Eddie Howe's has progressed from being on the kind of flatlining danger list to safe as houses.
Yes, he's safe as houses.
It's good. He's a good guy, Eddie Howe. I'm glad he's good. He's a good manager. The clubs sometimes fire really good managers impetuously, so I'm glad he has pulled through. Jake Sanders, Sun Sports News Editor, thank you so much. Excellent sport report. Now, as I keep saying, don't forget, stay tuned. Big story coming up after the 6 o'clock news. It is Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe, the leader now of the new party, Restore Britain. His first broadcast interview since turning his movement into a party last Friday. You do not want to miss a second. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's the interview they all wanted. I'm very privileged and honoured that he's decided to give it to me. So a warm welcome to the independent MP for Great Yarmouth. I guess now more he is the Restore Britain MP for Great Yarmouth because he is now the leader of that party which he formed last Friday. Welcome, Rupert.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you very much for choosing this show to give your first broadcast interview about this. Well, right off the bat, before we get into the details, you and I have spoken often over the past few months, and you've always been at great pains. You know, I've made the mistakes. Oh, your party, Restore Britain. You always say, no, it's not a party, it's a movement. And suddenly on Friday, you said it's not a movement, it's a political party. You turned it into an official political party. Why did you do that?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, we've today gone through 70,000 members,
Wow.
Kevin, which is fantastic. So we're way above the Lib Dems now, which I think tells you something. And I think we're heading, hopefully rapidly, for 100,000. And I've been absolutely humbled by the response of the British people. So in answer to your question, we launched Restore Britain as a party on Friday, and we did it fittingly in Great Yarmouth, in an extremely cold Britannia pier. I was shivering while I was giving the speech. We didn't have much heating there, and sadly, unfortunately, most people came well dressed, but I contemplated speaking in my overcoat, but in the end, I did take my overcoat off and chose to freeze instead. But it was a fantastic reception, and the reception we've had since, and we've just been absolutely snowed under with emails, expressions of interest, and I think most excitingly, people watched the video that we put out that's now had, I think, over 40 million views worldwide. Wow. Which we did on the farm. And I think it stirred up a sort of an excitement in people who haven't voted for a long time. So we've got a lot of people who say they haven't voted for many elections, and they feel they now want to get involved. And I would urge everybody who wants their country back to now get involved. This is our last chance collectively. We concluded we needed to do this. We need to put up a selection of 650 new MPs from outside the existing political establishment who come from their local communities, who've contributed to their local communities, who have been successful in business, who understand which way is up, and who put Britain at the top of the agenda, not their party. So I think if we do that, we can quite quickly turn around what's gone so badly wrong.
But what made you, Rupert, decide to change Restore Britain from a movement to a fully fledged political party? What was it in your mind that made you feel this was the right thing to do, and why did you do it?
Well, as you know, I think doing the movement was the right decision. The movement was designed to unite. The movement did unite. I mean, the Tories very kindly put me on the Public Accounts Committee, which a lot of people enjoy me attempting to vaguely hold the permanent secretaries in the civil service to account. I mean, they waste vast amounts of taxpayer money and then expect to put taxes up to fund it. Well, I personally think that's completely wrong. So I think the movement's worked. And in answer to your question, I watched Reform bringing in Tories who'd been in the cabinet, in a cabinet that presided over mass legal and illegal immigration, a cabinet that presided over a series of extremely bad decisions over COVID, people, Nadine Zahawi, Nadine Dorries, Robert Jenrick, Suella Braverman. All these people have been in power, and they've played a part in what's happened to the country so far. So I think we need new people from outside the existing power base. And I watched, as I think people didn't like Reform bringing in those people who had played a part in our demise. So I think the achievement that we made, Nigel, myself, Richard, and James McMurdoch, in 2024, was we actually broke into Parliament as 4 new MPs with a completely clean slate. So none of us had been in Parliament before. That was exciting, and that gave us a chance to act as the agents for change. And I don't think the British people want to watch Reform just become another political party based on the formula which has failed us so badly. So that's what made me decide we need to provide a completely fresh alternative for the British people. We need to win by 2029. And look, I'm not a rocket scientist. I've got a very able young team. I've been around, I've done a lot. And as my grandmother used to say, the old are wise, the young are able. Well, I provide the wisdom, they provide the ability. So I want to provide the British people with a different choice, one from outside what's been happening, one that will not be frightened to change things, one that will change things, that will repeal malign legislation and will put the British people at the top of the agenda and try and rebuild and restore Britain to what I think it can become, because it's got the best people in the world. It's just that they've been badly let down. They've been undermined by a lot of post-war sort of plans from, for mass immigration, which I think is wrong. I don't disagree with limited, targeted immigration, which is going to improve the standard of living for the British people. But I put the British people right at the top of the agenda. And, I run multiple family businesses. We care deeply about our staff. They are fantastic people. And what they need is fair, decent leadership. And I think I can offer that. If people don't want it, Kevin, I accept that. Unlike the people who didn't accept the decision of the British people when they voted to leave the European Union, I accept the view of the British people. What we've got to do is provide them, I think, with an alternative. And what's so exciting is that they have responded since Friday in the most astonishing way. I hope that continues, because I don't think they can rely on a small number of people. This has got to be a collective effort. We've got to stand up to this petty bureaucracy, these petty rules, these petty-minded people who are basically now the enemies of the British people. The state has definitively, as I said in that video, become the enemy of the people, and we have to change that. Absolutely. The state should be serving the people. That's what they should be doing.
Let me ask you this. I want to get on to Nigel Farage. Yesterday, when your name cropped up at their little anointing ceremony, these are our first shadow cabinet ministers. When your name cropped up, your former leader, Mr. Farage, got very tetchy. But let me ask you a specific question first. This was suggested, revealed perhaps, on social media today that Jeremy Clarkson has expressed a great interest in your party, and there is talk that he might stand as an MP for you, specifically in Doncaster. Is there any veracity to that story?
Well, I haven't spoken to Jeremy. I met him briefly. He farms not far from me, and Caleb actually spreads the muck on my farm from so Caleb has bought himself some extremely smart contracting machinery, a large loader, tractors and dung spreader, and he comes and very kindly spreads the manure on the field.
So you've got that connection then. Do you have a political connection? Do you expect Jeremy Clarkson to become a part of your new party? As I say, there are suggestions on social media today that he's off to stand as an MP. For some reason, Doncaster is being cited. What do you know about that?
Well, I never chase people, Kevin, but I can tell you if Jeremy Clarkson decided to darken my doorstep, I would be absolutely delighted. And I think he is exactly the kind of person I would like to see standing for Restore Britain in the next election, who has common sense, a sense of humour, who basically has made a massive contribution to Britain. And I would be delighted if he chose to play a part. And I hope more people like him will come forward, because that's what we need. We need people who have, if you like, a passion, a vision, a proven track record, and who put the British people at the top of the agenda. So if he decides to come forward, I will be absolutely delighted.
Well, we'll follow that one very closely. Let me just play you a little clip of Mr. Farage reacting tetchily to the very spectre of your name being raised at their little gathering yesterday. Watch this.
People think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous. We'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, You know, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, you know, I realised we just had to get rid of him and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you.
Rupert, do you want to deport entire communities, including people who are born in Britain?
Well, I've never said that, Kevin. So, again, Nigel's, he said a few things about my career which were totally wrong, about WH Ireland, which I left in reasonable health. I sold my shares at £1.40 and I saw they were taken over 10 years later for 3p. With Southampton, I left it with £5 million in the bank, having sold Theo Walcott, and had to warrant that. When I went back to save it, it had been badly handled and was very short of money. So look, I'm not going to, and I never sued him. So look, I'm not going to go into the.
What do you say about his accusation that you want to deport entire communities, including people who were born in Britain?
I think he knows that's rubbish. What happened with Nigel, Kevin, is that when I was speaking, he asked me to go and speak in Kevin's constituency in northwest Essex in, would have been January 25, which I agreed to do. And I gave a speech there. You can look that up. He tried to take out of my speech, he tried to edit my speech, and I spent some time in a hotel room talking to him. He tried to take the word mass out of deportation, and I noticed that Zia Yusuf is now talking about mass deportations. And what he also tried to do was take out of my speech my line, which said that I would deport those people who knew that a member of their family was perpetrating rape on white, working-class, underage English girls who had been groomed. I would deport the families of those people who are foreigners, and I would deport those people who have dual nationality. Anyone who was aware that this evil was happening and they didn't report it to the police, then I said I would be deporting them. He tried to take that out of my speech as well, and I refused to take that out. I did take the word mass out. If you check the speech, I took the word mass deportations out. And as you know, I think with Nigel yesterday, the mask slipped, Kevin. He knows what they tried to do to me. They made 2 false witness statements about me. They tried to send me to prison. They accused me of having early onset dementia. They said there was evidence of bullying in my office. And look, if Nigel had said to me, "You're not for me, go and be an independent and sit on the bench behind me," and as Ayub Khan said, watch the rubbish build up in front of me, then ultimately, which I thought was a great line from him, ultimately I would have accepted that. Look, we don't all get on and share the same views, but I have never suggested deporting whole communities of people with British passports. That is palpable rubbish, and he knows it.
You've made that clear. Rupert, I've got to ask you this. Your former colleague, and I think still friend, Ben Habib, obviously formed his own political party, Advance UK. I've interviewed him since your announcement last Friday of Restore Britain becoming a party. I've seen his posts on social media. He is very keen to hook up with you, for your 2 parties to unite. Makes it clear that he shares a very similar outlook, worldview to you, and thinks that Advance UK and Restore Britain working together as one could be a very powerful force. Are you amenable to that idea?
On immigration, if I could just finish that, Kevin, I think if you want to know our views on immigration, read the document that we produced, which is on our website. It's the most comprehensive document on immigration that's ever been written, in my view, by any political party. Harrison Pitt wrote it. We've put it out. There's a PDF. I can send you a physical copy if you want one, but it's all there. The reasons why it's difficult to deport, how we solve the constitutional issues, how we then make it a hostile environment, and how we basically deter people from coming here illegally. So that's how we will deal with it. It's all there in writing.
Got
and
that?
I'm very happy
Okay, got that. We can get that on your Restore Britain website. My question about Ben Habib: are you amenable to uniting with Advance UK?
With regard to Ben and I, as you know, were in the European Parliament together. We basically did have concerns together about the Northern Ireland Protocol, but we were whipped to vote for the Brexit deal, which we did. Ben and I get on very well, and after Reform tried to politically assassinate me, well, first of all, I tried to persuade him to come east with me. When I decided to go to Great Yarmouth, I tried to persuade him to come to Suffolk Coastal, because I think Ben would have made a very good MP, but he was loyal to his Wellingborough constituents, and he stood there again, which I told him he wouldn't win in Wellingborough, which he didn't. It's very difficult to win in those seats like Wellingborough in the Midlands. So he didn't stand there. I got elected. He didn't get elected. So ultimately, when Reform politically assassinated me, once I cleared my name, which I knew I would do because the witness statements were palpably false and the accusations were equally false. I cleared my name. We did sit down and we discussed how we could work together with our teams. Our teams were all there as well, so it wasn't just he and I sitting in a dark room. It was both teams. Now, I wanted a movement. He decided he wanted to go off and set up a party. He did initially agree to support the movement. He then changed his mind. He went off and set up Advance UK. And I went off and did my movement, which I think was the right decision. It united. The Tories put me on the Public Accounts Committee, which you may or may not have seen me on. It's very hard work. I have absolute admiration for Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, the chairman, who does unbelievable amounts of work on behalf of the public. But ultimately, we went our own ways, and he built his structure and I built mine. And as I said to you, we've just gone
yes
through
or
so
no,
much.
Rupert? Would you combine with Advance UK?
Answering your question, you've got to let me answer. All
right, go on.
I know you want soundbite.
Of course, we want sound bites. That's our business. Go on, carry on, Rupert. Carry on, Rupert.
You're not going to get it from me, mate. Okay? So look, what I think, and people have got to understand this. Whilst Ben and I get on very well, and you've never seen me say anything rude about Ben. He was very supportive of us yesterday when Nigel was rude, and we are talking, but any merger or any form of, if you like, aggregation brings with it quite a lot of risk. It brings with it differing dynamics. And at the end of the day, we haven't yet resolved all those issues. And, when and if we do, we'll let people know. Okay. Meanwhile, we will go on supporting each other. We will go on driving the agenda that we think needs to be driven. And, people say to me, oh, well, you're going to split the vote. I don't agree with that, because ultimately what we're doing, I think we're seeing a lot of people who haven't voted almost for 25 years joining us now, because they've got something to vote for, I think. People can merge at any time before the election. They can merge after the election. So this splitting the vote business is usually used, I think, by people who are trying to force things together rather than let logic take its course. And my most pressing job now is to find 649 other candidates who are happy to stand, to give the British people a completely clean slate of people who put Britain at the top of the agenda and give the British people an opportunity to vote for something different.
I'm with you, Rupert. Can I just? I did ask the audience if they had a few questions for you. I'll just give you one. This is from Amanda in London. This is to you. As I believe, Rupert, you are a patriotic man. I cannot understand why you are blinded by your falling out with Nigel Farage and not putting country first. What do you say to that?
Well, I haven't been saying anything about Nigel. I think Nigel's rattled and he's saying things about me. But if you notice, I haven't today come shooting out and attacked him, I've said to my team, we should just ignore him and let him and whoever else wants to throw mud at us, just ignore it, because in the end, we've got far better and bigger things to be doing.
And this is from Steve, who's a Reform member. So would you ask Rupert, if he is serious about his new party winning the next general election, where would he be sourcing his new MPs from, and how would he vet them? Can I just add, just a general question, really? I mean, you said you've had 70,000 people apply to be a member of Restore Britain already, which is pretty.
Yeah, we went through 70,000 today.
70,000. Yeah. So, do you genuinely think, if you can get this all together, that you do stand a chance of being a serious player at the next election?
I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe that, Kevin. Yes, I think the British people have had enough. I think they're looking for something different, and the fact that that video that we did on the farm has had 40 million views worldwide shows you that we have huge support. And the most exciting thing is it's people who haven't voted for a very long time. And if you notice, Labour won a big majority with 35% of the vote. So there's a lot of people who didn't vote at the last election, and I'm appealing to them to join in and help us. If they want their country back, they've got to fight for it too. So get involved. Come and help us. We need help. We need the majority with us.
Okay, Rupert, very last question. You know, they say we're all equal, but some people are more equal than others. You have already received on social media the very significant support of Elon Musk. He says he's the man. Rupert Lowe, vote for him. Have you spoken to Elon?
We communicate with Elon. I haven't actually physically spoken to him, but we communicate with him quite a lot across the X platform. And he's been very supportive. He's very supportive of what we've done on the rape gang inquiry, which I have to tell you was two of the most harrowing weeks of my life.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
But I've heard stories that I just couldn't believe, and we will be writing a huge report. And our intention is to pursue private prosecutions of those people who should have been brought to book. How anyone can vote Labour, or indeed vote for any party that has sat back and watched this pervasive evil, which is, I can tell you, very widespread across Britain.
Yep.
It's linked to county lines drugs, it's linked to organised crime, and it is just on a scale, Kevin, that you can't believe. And the victims are the most vulnerable people in society, and any society that doesn't protect the most vulnerable is a society that needs to radically change.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Our Labour could almost unanimously vote against a statutory national inquiry into this total evil and this total scandal. That just shows you, and frankly, how anybody can now vote Labour. I do not know.
Well, Rupert, here's to you for launching your own inquiry, a very significant inquiry. And once again, thank you so much for coming on to this show to speak for the first time about your project, the Restore Britain Party. Rupert Lowe there, leader of Restore Britain, the political party that now presents a direct challenge to Reform UK, and indeed all of the other parties. Jeremy Clarkson might get involved. Elon Musk is supporting them. This isn't a joke, folks. This is serious. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. We'll go straight to break now, and when we come back, we'll talk to Samara Gill, our reporter and political analyser, to get her take on what Mr. Lowe was just saying to me. So that next, stay tuned.
every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1. It is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, have taken that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, that was a bit of a scoop for this show, for Drive Time. Very grateful to Rupert Lowe for giving his first interview about Restore Britain, the movement that he turned into a political party on Friday and presented a direct challenge to Reform UK, who are busy trying to sort of just go, doesn't mean anything. Well, it does. It does. 70,000 members today. Something's going on, folks. Let's analyse, shall we, some of the declarations that Rupert Lowe made to me just now with our East reporter, Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara.
Hi, Kev. How are you? That was a very interesting interview, actually. I mean, I've been really wanting to hear from Rupert since this whole thing happened on Friday the 13th, momentously.
Yeah, I forgot it was Friday the 13th. Unlucky for some, and basically unlucky for Reform UK. Now, what Rupert was saying, as Reform UK tried to sort of say, it means nothing. What he was saying was that people around the country are getting increasingly concerned about allegedly suggestions that Reform UK are turning into the Tory party wearing a different coat. And that, the event you were at, was it yesterday, day before, when they unveiled the first of their new cabinet. You know, you had 4 announcements. Richard Tice, Deputy PM, plus business and housing and pretty much everything. Zia Youth, currently not a put forward generic and government until last month were senior members of the Tory party. People don't particularly like that, and Rupert Lowe is cashing on a feeling that more and more disillusioned Reform supporters might be signing up to, don't you think?
Totally. I mean, this could be potentially cataclysmic for Reform, to be perfectly honest with you, Kev. I mean, I actually didn't think that it was going to be much of a movement, but the past couple of days have proven otherwise. And it's not just because of what Rupert Lowe has been doing and what his team has been pumping out. It's actually also because of what Reform's been doing as well on the other side. So, I mean, it's interesting because when you see, you know, Rupert Lowe coming out and almost being affirmed when Nigel at that conference on Tuesday said that, you know, Rupert was saying we need mass deportations and we decided he's just got to go. Well, then what does that say about the police allegations that Zia Youssef lodged against him that then were sort of basically discarded? I mean, this is a real sign to Reform to not build people up, create these massive beasts, and then toss them out of the party, because this is what happens. This is the effect of this. And unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be the first Rupert Lowe that they produce, because looking at how much power he's just given Robert Jenrick today, who genuinely just joined the party a couple of weeks ago and is now going out against some of even Nigel's policies publicly when he was outlining his budget or his sort of proposed changes as Chancellor. I mean, you're starting to see that Jenrick's got a massive stronghold on reform now, and I think thinks that he might be the sort of natural successor to Farage. It's quite crazy how this has all happened in the past week, Kev.
Yeah, I think there's something going on here. And basically, I know that a lot of Reform supporters... Now, I don't want to undermine, by the way, the achievement of Nigel Farage and Reform. What they've achieved is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, for Nigel Farage to be in with more than a very serious chance of becoming our next Prime Minister, considering where he was a year ago, 5 years ago, is just extraordinary. So let's not undermine the incredible achievements of Nigel Farage and Reform UK. However, the more plausible they become as the next government, the more some Reform supporters see them as the establishment. And that's exactly what Reform supporters don't want. They want the end of the establishment. They don't want Tories. They don't want the Labour Party. So Rupert Lowe now... so traditionally, Reform UK for the past few years have been the rebels, you know, outside saying we are the difference, we are the wind of change, we will smash the two-party system, we will bring you something revolutionary, something different. We're the rebels, we're the outriders. Well, suddenly they're not, are they? They look like the establishment, and the rebels, the people against the establishment are, well, you know, Ben Habib, but now mainly Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain. He said that 70,000 people have signed up to join the party today. We hear Jeremy Clarkson's interested in helping them and being an MP for them. So, you know, for the Reform UK to say this is nothing, this is just tittle-tattle, I think they better not get complacent about this.
You know, I think it's really difficult because, yes, it might sound like I'm ingratiating Restore Britain, but I'm more just saying it's a symptom of the mismanagement recently of Reform. And the thing is, yes, they might have gotten 70,000 members, but obviously there was that poll by JLL yesterday that showed that only 8% of people even know who Rupert Lowe is. So that's going to be a massive issue there, because when you're door knocking and you're asking vote for Rupert Lowe, majority of people will not actually know who you're talking about unless you're on the Twitter sphere. So politically, there's a big issue there where we are unfortunately getting sucked into social media trends and not actually getting sort of the real world perspective. But then also on the other side of it, you do need to be quite sort of reflective of what's going on social media, because that is the sort of town square of the current global world. So it's very interesting what's happened here. But unfortunately, Restore Britain's policies, it's very easy for Rupert to come out now and put things out into the ether, just, you know, tweet whatever he wants to do. But in practice, I think it will be much more difficult. And unfortunately, you know, Farage has been trying to create this new brand of conservatism. He's trying to redo what the Tories failed at, but he's made some real misfires in the past couple of weeks. And that is, as you can see, has resulted in people lurching even further to the right, which, you know, it's up to the audience to decide whether that's a good thing or not.
If you think about it, you witnessed it live. It's a very strange spectacle, wasn't it? Nigel Farage saying, well, the trouble with Rupert Lowe is he's too right-wing. He's way too right-wing. You know, that's effectively what he was saying. Now, for Reform UK supporters, the optics of that are not great, are they?
No, he needs to be really careful with his rhetoric here. I think people really underestimate how sensitive his core base is and how they can easily be turned off. And we can see that in the past couple of days with how everything's been split. Now, in terms of what it means for the Conservative movement, I think it's actually quite a bad thing to have a split vote. Now, a lot of people can say, oh, you know, it's not a split vote if everyone votes for Restore. That's just not going to be the case, because Farage has established a political party that has polled in the last couple of hundred polls at the top. So there is going to be a fracture that will really need to be taken care of if you want conservatism back in the country. Unfortunately, I do think some of what Rupert is doing is a personal vendetta. And to be honest, if my house had been raided by the police because of allegations from someone within a party that I used to be in, I would probably have a bit of a chip on my shoulder as well. So I just think this is the messiness of what goes on behind the scenes, and we're now seeing it presented to us publicly, and the voters are going to have to choose who they side with. But I mean, it's merely a couple of days old. Who knows what direction it will turn into? Who knows who will come out for and against? I think it's very much a developing story, Kev.
Yeah, it sure is. We'll watch it like a hawk. But the headline is, I think, that Reform UK would be very unwise to ignore what Rupert Lowe is up to, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they absolutely would be. But I also think that we need to be wary of some of the policies that Restore's putting out in order to grab those votes and grab those members really quickly. I mean, if you look really deeply into it, there might be stuff that you disagree with, and the audience might have some issues with it. But I'm probably just saying that because I'll be the first one to be deported if Restore get in. So maybe it is happy day.
I'd back that. I'd back that, yeah. Listen, Samara, fantastic stuff. Good to have you on the show. And I will see you tomorrow. Our brilliant ace reporter and political analyst who was at the Reform UK launch the other day, Samara Gill. When we come back, we're just going to take your calls. So get your calls in now, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about what Rupert Lowe had to say. Let's talk about what you think. So that next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we're going to take your calls. You know what we're talking about. Rupert Lowe just spoke to me for about 25 minutes. The first broadcast interview about his new party, Restore Britain, which many feel will present a direct challenge to his former party, Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, of course. Oh, well, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Tark Quinn. Hello, Tark. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Kevin. Thank you. Great show, as usual. Best. Oh, I've got to say it.
Yeah, go on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Who am I to argue? Who am I to disagree?
Yeah, well, it was just an absolute revelation to hear the way in which, not just what Rupert said, but the way in which he said it, and your very good, assiduous way of keeping to the point. I thought that was excellent, Kevin. Well done. Not that we want a review from me, but you're going to get one anyway. But what it was, I think what I liked about this was that I do believe, and I don't know if there are many people in my, our political persuasion who also think that Nigel, his biggest mistake, and it's not too late yet, this is Reform UK and him because he's the main flag bearer, is that he should never, and he can still reverse this, he could do a volte-face on this. Nadine Dorries, I mean, I love Andrea, but they're all tainted.
Nadine Zahawi.
Yeah, the whole
Remainer.
He needs to say, listen, guys, pull them into a meeting. Listen, I'm going to have to let you go. And not because I think it's great that you support me, wonderful, but you should have all stood down and stood, actually forced by-elections if you felt, particularly Suella and Robert, they should have stood down, stood as Reform MPs, but they didn't. They just crossed. I don't think the public like people crossing the floor, Kevin. It goes against the grain of British fair play. You can't just cross the floor.
Well, also, Tark, it is that, more and more with these more Tories, I understand. There's no doubt that Suella Braverman, Robert Jenrick, and some of the Tories who've Andrew Rossendale, who was in the studio with me yesterday, I mean, they're far more politically at home with Reform UK. So you can't just say, oh, it's a disgrace every time Reform UK accepts someone from the Tory party. That would be ridiculous. So the right-wing members of the Tory party going to Reform, I don't think is either wrong or a problem. It is only natural. They feel disenfranchised by the Tories. As Suella Braverman said, Reform makes them feel far more at home. But I think that Nigel Farage needs to explain that more, because the image that somehow or other Reform UK is just the old Tory party in new clothes is gaining momentum, and it's not good for Reform, is it?
Exactly right. I think this aspect, I mean, we can split hairs in the weeds on, quite how these former Tories, but I think the problem is that there is a general optic starting to stick on the Reform turquoise, that it's Tory 2.0. It's starting to stick. More and more people I hear are saying it now, and that is not what they wanted. They were supposed to be completely new broom, completely fresh new faces from industry, from sport, from business, and it's not. It's some of the old...
It's old Tories. It's Tory cabinet ministers,
And this is bringing it back to Rupert. This is where Rupert's going to steal a march, because he is going to be bringing in completely people we've never heard of, regular people, which is what we want, people like you and me, and that's what he's going to do. Nigel could still do that. He could still do it,
I want to stress, the achievements of Reform UK are amazing, and they are still in a very, very good position that no one expected them to be in even a year ago, let alone 5 years ago. It's extraordinary how they've progressed, and Nigel Farage still stands a very good chance of being our next Prime Minister. But I do think that he would be well advised not to ignore the threat from Rupert Lowe and his party Restore Britain. And it was a strange sight to see Nigel Farage standing up the other day when he announced these cabinet ministers saying, the trouble with Rupert Lowe is he's too right-wing. Well, that's kind of strange, and I don't think Reform UK party members like that very much. Tarquin, very good observations. Always good to talk to you, mate. Thank you for an excellent call. Tarquin in London. We'll go to break in a minute, but first let's talk to Matthew in Warrington. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Kevin. Great to speak to you, mate. Yeah, I listened to Rupert's interview, and I thought, the guy knows his stuff. He's a businessman, and he's switched on. For me, he is a little bit too far left with his views. It's not... They're not
Rupert's too far left?
Yeah, he's just a bit
too far left.
Is that right? Sorry. Right. Sorry.
You must be extremely right-wing, Matthew.
I'm sorry, mate. I'm still outside.
That's all right, mate. Yeah. So you think he's a bit too? You think he's too right-wing?
Just a bit too much, and I think he's got to do what's best for the nation, and it's not right. It's like Rupert and Nigel. It's just two blokes having a bum fight, and it's who's got the.
I think there's undoubtedly an element of that, Matthew.
And he's not going to recruit the people that he's got. He's got some councillors coming over now that have been sacked from Reform that have got a bit of said dodgy things and done dodgy things, and he's going to be careful he doesn't get infiltrated by the wrong kind of people. I just don't think he's going to get.
Yeah, I mean, the organisational task ahead of Rupert Lowe, if he is to field 650 candidates at the next election, is just an Everest to climb. It really is. But you never know. But how do you feel, just before you go, Matthew? I mean, there's no doubt Rupert Lowe, Advanced UK, and Ben Habib, they've split the right. Does that worry you?
Yeah, it does, because it's not the right time to do that. At the end of the day, we've got to get rid of Labour, and we want to make sure they don't coalition with the... I know these people are saying we've got Tories coming over to Reform, but the Tory party is the Lib Dems. A lot of these,
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
There's too many...
Net zero nutters, yeah.
Yeah, so... The Reform is like the true Tory party from when maybe...
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I mean, the Reform...
Got to bring people in with experience. So Rupert and these other guys, you just need to have your views, poke Reform in the ribs, make them, don't go too silly, give them a bit of a hard time, but back off, let us get on with it.
Yeah, I don't suppose it will do that. I mean, in my view, it'd be nice if they could all... it'd be nice if all the parties of the right could get together and form an unbeatable group that would see off any threat from this mad mosaic of Labour, Green Party, Lib Dems, you know, who could outnumber a right-wing party come the next election, which is quite worrying. But Matthew, really good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Matthew in Warrington. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls on my interview with Rupert Lowe. So that next, stay tuned.
Every Monday to Wednesday, midnight until 1, it is Talkback.
Such a shortage of housing. You've got landlords, right, are taking that on board, and it's an absolute disgrace.
Your stories, your opinions, it is your chance to have your say. So they're literally just being rented out as hotels, basically.
Yeah, rent a load of hotels.
Well, that has really shone a light for me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still taking calls. Only 10 minutes to go. Fairly soon, Alex Phillips will be in the studio to let you know what she's got lined up for your entertainment from 7 until 10 p.m. One of the questions I asked Rupert Lowe was on behalf of Amanda, a regular correspondent in London. She says she's got in touch again saying Rupert Lowe avoided answering my question about putting country first. I worry that his party will gift Labour the next general election. So that's what Amanda says. Now, the point is, people seem to think, well, if Rupert Lowe was a patriot or if Ben Habib was a patriot, they'd stand down and let Nigel Farage sort of walk the next election so that they didn't split the right. Well, they don't like Nigel Farage. They don't believe in what he stands for. That's politics. You know, I don't see why it's an issue of patriotism. It's an issue of democracy, isn't it? They're allowed to stand against. They don't believe in what Nigel Farage stands for. There is opposition. They're not going to step aside, I'm afraid. Let's talk to Ricky in London. Hi, Ricky.
Hello, Kevin. How are you? First time talking to you.
Yeah, well, thanks for ringing. What would you like to say, mate?
Right, Amanda's right. Amanda's right. It is insanity. We're going to split the vote. Why don't they use their intelligence? Let reform. We want one.
They don't like reform. They think reform. But both Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe think reform are betraying Britain.
That's fine. Let reform.
So why should they step aside to?
Yeah, but it's going to split the vote.
But why should they step aside to let reform win when they believe reform are betraying Britain?
It's for the country, Kevin.
Well, why doesn't Nigel Farage step aside and let Rupert Lowe win?
No, just listen. Well, look, we got one crack at this, right? You stand aside, right? You give reform a free path, right? Yeah. You give reform a free passage. Then let them have a go at running the country. If you don't like,
well, he's not going to do it, Ricky. You know that. You know Rupert Lowe won't do that.
If you don't like what they do, you give them a fair crack at the whip. If you don't like what they do, then you form your party at the next election.
Why? Why should they give Nigel Farage a free pass?
Well, the country can't afford it, Kevin.
Well, you couldn't. They might say that Nigel Farage should step down and let Restore Britain win the next election. Why should they make way for Farage? They don't agree with Farage.
What's going to happen? Rupert Lowe's got a vendetta. Samara Gill's right? This is what's going to happen. He is hard right. He's proper right wing. All Nigel is trying to do is recreate the Conservative Party as it was and should have been before it went to the left. That's all he's trying to do.
Yeah, look. Ricky, I want to make clear, I'm a great admirer of Nigel Farage, and I think what Reform have achieved is astonishing. And, you know, I understand where you're coming from. It would be nice if all the forces of the right could get together. But in the real world, that's not going to happen. Rupert Lowe thinks Reform are betraying Britain, and he ain't going to hook up with them.
Can I say one thing, Kevin?
One last thing, quickly.
Rupert Lowe, he's proper right-wing. How many Muslims are in this country? Have you seen
4 million.
What they're capable of? Have you seen what they're capable of?
Well, hang on a second. Well, hang on. Let's not start besmirching all Muslims, shall we? Ricky, listen, I've got to move on. Really good call, though. Thank you for calling. Ricky in London there. Now, just before Alex comes in, Donald Trump has just posted this. I think it's on Truth Social. It's on some social media site anyway. I mean, it's a bit late in the day, but he says, this is what he's posted. I have been telling Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the United Kingdom that leases are no good when it comes to countries. He's talking about the Chagos. And that he is making a big mistake by entering a 100-year lease with whoever it is that is claiming right. Title and interest to Diego Garcia, that is the airstrip on this, the strategic military airstrip on the Chagos Islands. As he says, interest to Diego Garcia, strategically located in the Indian Ocean. Our relationship with the United Kingdom is a strong and powerful one, and it has been for many years, but Prime Minister Starmer is losing control of this important island by claims of entities never known of before. In our opinion, they are fictitious in nature. Should Iran decide not to make a deal, it may be necessary for the United States to use Diego Garcia and the airfield located in Fairford in order to eradicate a potential attack by highly unstable and dangerous regimes. An attack would potentially be made on the United Kingdom as well as other friendly countries. Prime Minister Starmer should not lose control for any reason of Diego Garcia by entering a tenuous, at best, 100-year lease. This land should not be taken away from the UK, and if it is allowed to be, it will be a blight on our great ally. We will always be ready, willing and able to fight for the UK, but they have to remain strong in the face of wokeism and other problems put before them. Do not give away Diego Garcia. Well, make your mind up, Trump. I mean, we have a contract, we have a treaty that says that we cannot give away the Chagos Islands if America does not approve. The last thing we heard in the last couple of days was Trump has given it the go-ahead. Now he hasn't. This must stymie the Chagos deal. This must end it. This is extraordinary, folks. Something for Alex Phillips to get her teeth into. Let her know what you think about that. Donald Trump saying that we must not give away the Chagos Islands and Diego Garcia to Mauritius, China's best friend. And we have a treaty that says we're not allowed to do that unless America approves. So there you have it. The President of the United States of America has just said we must not give away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. So I would say that might save the Chagos Islands. Extraordinary, extraordinary. Let's quickly take a call, shall we? Dave in Basildon. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kev. Yeah, brilliant show.
Thank you.
Whatever the problems between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, which are very large, they're both going to let Labour in, and they must both realise it. And as much as they hate each other, and they slightly vary, and one thinks the other's betraying, and if they don't, there's only ever going to be the one chance for reform.
I take your point, Dave, but Rupert Lowe would say, why should I help reform?
Oh, absolutely. I can understand and I can sympathise with him because they treated him appallingly. So there's a lot of climbing down on both sides that needs to be done.
I agree with you, Dave. It would be nice, but I think it's a pipe dream. But good call. Thanks for ringing, Dave in Basildon. So that's extraordinary what Donald Trump has just posted on social media, that he does not approve of us giving the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, China's best friend. And we have a treaty that states if the Americans do not approve of us giving away those islands, we can't do it. So maybe, just hopefully, that's the end of this deal. Alex Phillips is in the studio. What do you make of that?
Good. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because people have been trying to suggest he supported it, and then he was against it, then
This
he
is for your
climbed
show.
down. Yeah, no, I've seen it. I was watching. Oh, thanks. I was watching it unfold in the news outside. But
we have a treaty. Our treaty states that without American approval, we cannot give away the Chagos Islands.
The most important thing about this is we need to look at who negotiated that deal, how they're profiting from it, and their relationship to our Prime Minister.
So maybe Philippe Sands needs a little look at. He's the KC, best friend of Keir Starmer and Richard Hermer, who had his fingers in an £8 million pot, which he received from Mauritius.
Starmer himself went over and did a visit, didn't he?
What is going on there? Because you've done a lot of work in this area.
Well, no, this is it. What is going on there? Because there's only
people making money. British people making money out of giving away our territory.
Remember, all of these men went to related barristers' chambers, which are basically Labour Party barristers' chambers, let's say.
Yeah.